Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's day 279 of our heroic resistance. And I want to introduce our next speaker. It's Olga Trofimtseva, is the ambassador at large with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, coordinator of the Exporters and Investors Council. Miss Olga, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Now we will be talking about the initiative Crane from Ukraine. Miss Olga, can you please tell us what is this initiative about? How will it operate? Yes, thanks a lot. There is a program initiated by Ukraine. It's called Grain from Ukraine, and its substance is in cooperation with our partners, with the countries, first of all from the European Union, but not only. Obviously, United States are involved in this program. So we plan to solve, or at least to facilitate, to ease the condition of the critical famine which threatens several countries and several regions, which is provoked by Russian aggression against Ukraine and blocking of the seaports, so obstacling the food exports, the grain exports to different regions of the world. So our initiative was supported not only by separate countries, but also by World Food Program of the United Nations organization. So in fact, this program is a positive signal for world markets and for the countries who depend to the most extent on the import of grain, including Ukrainian grain on one hand, and on the other hand, this program is additional to the existing grain corridor, which keeps operating, and we hope it will continue to operate within the next 120 days. It expands the opportunities for our agrarians, for our farmers to export their products, because the loading and sale of Ukrainian grain in the markets which require such products most at cost of such countries as Germany or Belgium or Canada, which already announced their participation in this program. It enables us to act rapidly, efficiently, and it's not only a signal, like information signal, positive signal, like, okay, the pressure will ease, but it's a good practical step which will prove its results, I hope shortly, both for Ukrainian farmers, as I already mentioned, and of course for the countries for whom it's very important to receive in the most prompt manner possible, without bureaucratic procedure, to ease their situation with food security. Ms. Olga, how many countries are already involved in this initiative? Who will finance it? And what is the financial component in general? As of today, we're talking about the direct funding without any mediators. So if we say about the countries, our spectators already seen one vessel financed by the German government with the support of the World Food Program, which left for Ethiopia. And I think there were 27 tons of grain on that vessel. So the same system will work with our partners. And as of today, the participation was confirmed by Belgium, Poland, Germany, if we're talking about the European Union, and also Canada and the United States. But is the initiate pool, which I'm sure will expand, and I'm sure, because the consultations are still in progress, the dialogue is in progress. I will repeat myself. we need to do it in the most efficient manner with the least bureaucratic obstacles possible. And I have to also mention that by that step we deprived Russia, which is very important, of their information narrative, of their information propaganda they were using within the last time. Like, oh, you see, the grain corridor is used not for those countries in need, not those who need that grain or wheat most, but the grain is channeled to Europe, which was not obviously true. However, this initiative, Grain from Ukraine, thanks to its implementation, will complement to the fight against these propaganda narratives in the information front. Talking about the countries which receive this aid, what are the countries and what's the volume, what's the scale of this aid, and who will define it? The scale of support will be defined by the coordination group created under this initiative, which is created under the lead of our President Volodymyr Zelensky, and this coordination group will work out the priorities and the countries where the products will be supplied to. But it's absolutely logical, in my opinion, that this food will go first of all to the countries that we've been hearing about for the last couple of months, or within the war, where the situation with food security jeopardized extremely due to Russian aggression against Ukraine. So these are the countries, first of all, of African continent, as I mentioned, Ethiopia, Libya, Algeria, and sub-Saharan Africa, and also some Middle Eastern countries are on the list too. In other words, those are the countries who are most dependable on the humanitarian supplies of the grain, because they cannot afford accumulating or procuring at either private or government cost any grain reserves in their countries. And right now they need, or as of yesterday, as people say, they had to have those grains to stabilize the markets. So first of all, we're talking about those countries who suffer most. How this initiative can help Ukrainian farmers, which enterprises can take part in that program, and what are the conditions of such participation? So, right, these conditions, some concrete provisions are being worked out, because the first vessel was a pilot, so to say, pilot project under this program. There are obviously no limitations as to participation. All our agrarians, all our farmers, including, or I would say most of all, small-sized and medium-sized, have an opportunity to expand their options for exporting their products, because we understand that the grain corridor, fortunately, it functions, but unfortunately it functions with restrictions, and there are provocations expected from Russia. We see them trying to destabilize the operation or sabotage the operation of this grain corridor, and any additional option for export, any additional option for sale of Ukrainian food to foreign markets at somewhat competitive price is absolutely crucial for our farmers, and it's important for their survival without exaggeration, because we know that this agrarian season very complicated agrarian season is about to be accomplished soon, and Ukrainian farmers, just like heroes, they harvested more than 40 million tons, and the next season will not be less complicated. And to enable our farmers to sell their products, to get some turnover costs, to get prepared for the next sowing campaign in the scale at least possible under conditions of the war, this initiative will definitely help them. Talking about the mechanics of this initiative, it will be implemented in the routes that are already operating on the grain corridor, or will they be any other routes? Well, yes, right. Unfortunately, as of today, there are no other routes for export of Ukrainian grain, or there is this Black Sea ports grain corridor, which are open for export or import for entrance of vessels, and there are also land corridors which function mostly for supply of our export to the countries of European Union. So first of all, we will be talking about from 1 to 10 vessels per month that will exit from Ukraine by seaways to support this initiative. So I want to mention at once that we're not talking here about some super big amounts of grains, or that we will be able to feed those hundreds of millions of people who unfortunately suffer, if not from famine, but from the lack of food. Still, we think that within the framework of this initiative, at least 5-6 million people in the African countries and in the countries of the Middle East, we will be able to ease the situation for such people if one ship will be living under the framework of this initiative, will be living in Ukraine. If we're talking in figures, how many tons of grain will it be per month? Well, it again depends. We have different size of ships exiting Ukrainian ports. It may be 30,000 tons, it may be 60,000 tons, and it will depend on how actively the program will operate, how successfully the program will operate, how soon we will work out the mechanics of the implementation of the program to have the both shipment and payment for those grains conducted in proper way. So from one ship up to 350 tons per day. Dear colleagues, your questions, please introduce yourself. Michael Short, Newsweek magazine, United States. Maybe it's a question not directly to you, but I would like to ask you, what's the situation today with the grain silos? I appreciate the question. The question of grain storage remains critical, and as of today we've managed to ease it for our farmers, and the farmers did a lot for that by themselves back in summer, when at their own cost, at the cost of international partners, donor organizations, they procured additional facilities for grain storage, so-called sleeves. It enabled small-sized farmers to use those sleeves to preserve grain for at least a couple of months. And the importance of this initiative is in expanding the export options, because these temporary capacities for grain storage, well, we cannot store the grain in them for a long time, and they will need to sell it anyway. And we have not to forget that the harvest keeps coming in this season, and respectively those sleeves, they have to be they have to be emptied, and the export is still going on. More than 10 million tons were already exported within the grain corridor, and in the internal market the pressure fell a little bit, but it's still substantial, and it will obviously influence the situation with the sale, with the export. The situation with the export and sale will influence on the farmers' decisions on what to sow next year. If we'll see if they will have the option of selling their products of this harvest, this year's harvest. Any more questions, friends?
Which are the main countries that you think that will be open to finance this project?
Thank you for the question. Out of the list that we already mentioned, I think that this will be the countries of the European Union, the countries of the North America. I think that such countries as Australia may get engaged too, Japan, South Korea, and so on. In fact, I think that this program, Grain from Ukraine, to me personally, by its mechanics, it reminds me, I would say, a global alliance of the food security, which was created thanks to this initiative, and which may, in future, if it will work successfully, it may help to the existing humanitarian programs such as World Food Program and others. It will help them to react in a more rapid manner to such critical situations that emerge in terms of food security in the markets of these or those countries. Thank you very much, Ms. Olga. Thanks for joining us. Dear colleagues, I will remind you we had Olga Trofimtseva join us, the Ambassador at Large with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, coordinator of the Exporters and Investors Council. Our next briefing is at 1400. We will be talking about